G'day YouTube, Quacker John here, and today I have Alan with me for an interview on learning to ride on a Kawasaki Vulcan S. Alan is from Michigan, USA, and a subscriber of the channel and a regular on livestream, and I am from Brisbane, Australia. G'day Alan, and thanks for joining me in this interview video presentation.
G'day, John. G'day, the whole world, whatever, how all that works.
Okay, Alan. What is your experience of riding a motorbike before the Kawasaki Vulcan S?
Well, I really hate to admit this, but my first experience was about 1969-70 with a friend's CB 350 Honda. And yeah, I liked that a lot. And then when my mom and dad did not want me to get a motorcycle. And after I got out of college, I went and moved in with a friend who had a 1972 Norton Commando 750. So my first bike was a 1973 Kawasaki H2 750 triple. Very fast motorcycle, handled horribly. Rode poorly on the freeways. It was even today in today's world, it's considered a widow maker. So many people got hurt on it. You could inadvertently pull wheelies with it. It was just a bad bike. And after about 6 months, I sold it and my 69 GTO Judge and picked up a Dodge van. But then in 74, the motorcycling bug bit me again. So I bought a 1974 Kawasaki Z1. That was an excellent bike. I was very happy with that. Rode that for several years. And then, you get married and things happen. And so I sold it to a college kid. And about 1979, the motorcycling bug got me again. And I picked up a Suzuki GS 850G, which is the shaft drive version. Rode that for a few years, but I found out that it was a little underpowered for my ex-wife and I, and windshield and fairings and all kinds of stuff. So I sold that and picked up a 1982 Honda Goldwing and had that for a couple of years. But then the people that we rode with at the time, one got transferred out of state, another one picked up and went to Arizona to start his own business. So we lost our riding partners because we did some touring and that stuff with the Goldwing. So we fell into a group of people with boating, and so I sold the Goldwing and bought a boat. Anyway, long story short, divorces, a job transfer. I'm now here in Michigan. All my daughters, I have 3, graduated from college. They're all married now. Things are good. So the wife and I, she's not real big on the motorcycling, but I just wanted to do something for myself. So I started looking around late last year, early this year, for potentially a motorcycle to pick up or buy. I didn't want to spend a lot of money, and I realized it was 36 years between the two. So I wanted something, I don't know, good, but kind of affordable. So that's my experience.
Wow. So it's 36 years since you rode a bike to the Vulcan S. For me, it was 34 years. So even though all those years have passed, you still have that desire to ride the bike again, don't you?
Yep. That just doesn't seem to go away. I don't know what that is. I don't know. There is something really nice about riding a motorcycle. If it's just you, Mother Nature, the wind in your face, and you're not dealing with traffic, you're riding the highways and byways, the back roads. It's just nice. I can't describe it anything better than that. If you're in California, where I was back in the day, you ride along the Pacific Coast Highway, and you're getting the sea breezes, and it's just nice. And as you know, you go down to Paradise Cove and around the bays there that you have. It's just nice. There's nothing that could compare to that.
So how long have you had your Kawasaki Vulcan S?
Well, that's the funny part of the story. I put a down payment. It was the bike. They had them on sale. It's a 2019 Vulcan S. They had them on sale because they were trying to blow out the thing. Then COVID obviously hit. And so I put a down payment on it, held it for about a month, actually picked it up at the end of April 28th, I think it was. And I was supposed to have my MSF class, which is a motorcycle safety foundation class here in the United States. It teaches basic riding skills. And that class was supposed to be May 5th. Well, that didn't happen. It's a 3-day class because of COVID. They pushed it till June. I couldn't push the purchase of the bike off any farther, so it was about mid-May, I'm going to say around May 15th, I picked up my bike. Basically, I trailered it back. I didn't have the classes. I didn't have a motorcycle endorsement or license, so I wasn't able to really ride the bike. I didn't do anything with, trying to do, I just felt it was better for me just to trailer it. So I did that. And then I rode the bike around my local streets, similar to you, John, just kind of getting used to it. And the two things I was a little nervous about was the forward controls and the 650 engine. You got to understand that back in the 70s and 80s, 650 and under motorcycles were just not that powerful. They didn't have a lot of anything to them. And really, in those days, you had to get bikes that were 900, 1,000 cc's or better. So I was a little nervous about those two things. But in riding it around a little bit, not on the streets, just in this little neighborhood I have, I got real comfortable with it real quick. So it meets those needs for me. So.
Well, you've answered a couple of questions, but extra questions. So you've had 4 months riding experience on the Vulcan S then?
Yes, 4 months. I got about, at this point, I went through the MSF class, again, the Motorcycle Safety Foundation class in the United States. That was started back in the 90s due to the fact that so many riders were getting killed. Anywhere from the first 6 months to the first year, 50% of the riders were getting killed. So the government put into these classes, most states have picked that up, where you go to this class and you learn basic skills. You learn how to use the clutch, the throttle, the brake. You learn to tight turn. You learn to just do basic things. Now, the instructors will tell you when you're done with that class, after 3 days, a test, and you have 2 tests, a written and a performance test, but they'll tell you, good luck. You just learned how to ride a motorcycle safely in a closed parking lot at 20 miles an hour or less. That is not the streets. There's a lot to learn, and I've accumulated that over the last 3-4 months, riding it with the Kawasaki, the Vulcan, and it's an excellent bike. It's got plenty of power. Even for a little 650, the fuel injection, all of that, it just, I'm getting 55 miles to the gallon. So if you're looking for a commuter type of bike, it gets great gas mileage. It's only weighs about 500 pounds, so it's relatively light. It has that ergo fit system, which I really liked. I'm 250 pounds, 6'1", so I put in the extended reach seat, which pushes you back about, or allows you to stretch your legs out about 1.5 inches. There's also arrangements where you can move the pegs and the shift lever and the front brake pedal forward 1.5 inches, so you can really stretch out if you're really tall. The handlebars, they have 2 different kind of handlebars. They have the standard one, which is what I have, and then they have one that's more for the shorter folks, if you will. I've seen videos where women that are 5'2", riding the bike very comfortably. It's got a very low seat height. They got the shorter bars, which are pulled back about 7 degrees. They put the pegs closer to them. They got the smaller seat, which I think they call it the small reach or whatever. and they're riding the bikes. They love them. The bike has plenty of power. You keep it between 4,000 and 6,000 RPMs. You're going to be plenty happy. If you really want some excitement, take it up above 6,000 RPM, and things are going to happen real fast on that bike. I'm just saying that. I'm putting it out there.
How did you feel in the days leading up to your first ride on the Vulcan S? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, the MSF class gives you some basics. Again, I learned some of that stuff in and around the little local streets I have here. They're all 25 mile an hour, so that wasn't too bad. There's not a lot of traffic. It's all residential. The very first time I went out there, yeah, you are a little anxious, a little nervous. Things are happening kind of fast, but you get used to that. You acclimate to those type of situations and whatnot. And what I found was the forward controls were very easy to get used to. You had mentioned it to me earlier that as opposed to sitting on top of the bike, you're kind of sitting in the bike with your feet forward a little bit. That becomes very, very comfortable. And with my older body and hips and stuff, it's just a comfortable feel. And I don't have any issues at this point with the bike. It's very nimble, plenty fast enough, stops well. I have made some modifications, my own personal choices to the bike, but there are a lot of accessories for that bike, and that's another factor in my looking at it. I like the initial style. Some people do, some don't. I do. And the fact that I like to kind of customize my bike a little bit for my own personal taste, there's lots of accessories that you can put on that bike as well.
Yeah, with regards to the initial nerves, I got over mine after the first corner. How long do you think it took you of riding to get over the initial nerves?
That's interesting. The straight line and braking, I had no issues with. Turning, not anywhere. Once you're stopped at a stop sign and you're making a left or right, that's not a big deal. Where the nerves really were is when you're hitting some curves at 30, 35, 40 miles an hour and you're leaning the bike over a little bit, you're counter steering, which is another thing with the MSF class they teach you. It was some verbiage, counter steering I'd never heard of before. There's a lot of things in that MSF class that they bring up that I had never heard before. Friction zone with the clutch, counter steering where you're pushing, you want to go right, you push with the right hand, and the bike just kind of drops in. It has to do with, the cyclic and the gyro effect with the tires stuff. But to your point, my first few curves, even though they said 45 mile an hour, I was a little tentative with it. I was going through it about 35, but now I go through those curves now. I keep up with traffic, and I have no issues, no concerns, no problems. So initially it was curves, moving at speed through curves.
So how easy do you think it is to learn on the 650cc Vulcan S? Did the power of the bike concern you?
Well, the only concern I had initially was I didn't know if the 650 would be enough power. I'm a big person, I guess, 250 pounds. I didn't know, in my experiences from years past, the 70s and 80s, like I said, those bikes didn't have a lot of power. In some cases, they were underpowered. The Kawasaki does not have any of that. They've detuned that enough. They've cammed it differently. Obviously, everybody knows it's a 650cc engine. It's the same engine that they use in their Ninja bike, and it's the same engine that they use in their Versys. So that engine goes back at least 20 years. There's a lot. It's very reliable, and they've cammed it differently. It's got plenty of power, and so I don't. That was my only concern initially, but that has proven false. I actually wouldn't at this point. I really don't want any more than that. If I I don't need to jump over 100 miles an hour every day like some people. I mean, riding along at 55, 60 is fine. An occasional jaunt up to 70, 80. The bike has plenty of power to do all of that. So all of those fears of being underpowered are long gone, long gone.
Okay, so the final question. What advice would you give people who are thinking of buying the Vulcan S for their first bike, and for people who are thinking of learning to ride on the Vulcan S?
Well, for learning to ride, obviously in the United States, you have to go get a license. And in order to get a license in most states, or what they call them endorsements, but in order to do that, you have to go through an MSF class. And that'll teach you some of the basics. And when you transfer that to the Vulcan, that'll seem pretty easy. You'll start relying on you'll know about the friction zone, the throttling, and all the rest of it. That'll come to you. You practice that, practice. That'll come pretty easy. As far as advice for people, I think it's been said before, and it's what's turned some people off. Oh, it's a great beginner bike. I believe that. I think if you're new to motorcycling and you go through an MSF class and then you get on the Vulcan, it'll inspire confidence. And it's a bike that you can grow into. And maybe, it'll do everything that you want it to do. Now, you have to be very honest with yourself with what you want to use the motorcycle for. Are you going to use it for commuting, back and forth to school, back and forth to a job? Are you going to do a lot of highway stuff, 70, 80 mile an hour stuff? Do you want to go touring? Do you want to put 300, 400, 500 miles a day on a motorcycle? Those are some of the things you have to ask yourself. If those are your long-term goals, I think the Kawasaki will get you there initially. But if I know people do it. I know people take the Kawasaki out and do 300 and 400 mile runs. I'm not in that boat. I think that there may be motorcycles that might be a little more comfortable for that, especially if you're carrying a lot of stuff or you're packing your significant other on back. But again, you need to really be honest with what you want to use that bike for. But for a beginner, I have no problems recommending that. In fact, a lot of people have said that if you get a small bike, a 250 or 300, within a year you're going to be looking for something more, because you're just going to find that that's just not enough motorcycle. Your confidence levels and your skill levels will be up. So you're going to get something bigger. So if you jump to a Kawasaki from there, that's great. Or if you just start on the Kawasaki, I think you're going to have an interview later with a gentleman who has done that, and I think you're going to find that the Kawasaki fits that realm. Now, there's a lot of people get turned off of that, and there's a lot of people that don't like it because it's not Harley, or it's a Japanese bike. I mean, there's a lot of other bikes out there to choose from. My personal opinion, the Kawasaki is one of the better ones. I wouldn't be afraid to advise anybody for getting that Kawasaki. And if you can get a good price, that was another thing for me, is getting a good price on the bike. That's the other piece of that. So, and the accessories and all the rest, all that works.
Well, great. Thank you, Alan. That wraps up the interview. Thanks everyone for joining in. And in particular, thank you, Alan, for your thoughts and insights. I'm sure it will help a lot of people.
No, thank you.
Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoy my videos, subscribe to the channel. Live stream is on every Wednesday night at 10 PM Brisbane, Australia time. You're most welcome to join in. You are most welcome to join the Quacker John chat room, and the link for your invitation to join the Quacker John chat room is in the comments under the video. Quacker John is on Facebook. Become a friend of Quacker John on Facebook. See ya!